podcast around where real conversations, real testimonies, and real life happens. Be prepared to be engaged and enlightened in a life-changing way here on Life Lessons Radio. Like, share, tag, and subscribe. Without further ado, Chatiela Underwood.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Life Lessons Podcast Radio. I am your host, Chatiela Underwood. Life Lessons Podcast Radio is a show where you will feel like you're at home. You're going to hear stories, you're going to hear testimonies, you're going to cry, you're going to laugh, you name it. But here is a place where you're going to be able to learn about other people's testimonies and be able to take something from it and learn something. But today I'm our first guest on this platform, actually, her name is Masiah. She is a trailblazing woman, and I'm very excited for you all to get to know her and her story. So without further ado, I would like to give the stage to her.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Peace and blessings to everybody who is watching. First and foremost, I have to say thank you to this queen right here for allowing me to be on her platform. And first of all, the first guest, because the first guest sets the tone for anything that you do. The first person that goes up always sets the tone. So I am truly honored that this amazing trailblazing woman, yes, because you are doing the same thing. Um, wants to share my story on her platform and you know, triumph over tragedy is what all of us who are survivors, I feel like that's what we are. That's like our
Yes.
statement. That's our, what is it called? Our quote, our mantra. We triumph over this tragedy,
Our motto.
So
Yes.
yes,
Our
our motto,
mantra.
yes.
Yes.
Our mantra, yes, yes, triumph over tragedy for all of us who have survived some horrendous things that were unimaginable to us beforehand, that you never could think that you could survive something like this. Whatever each one of us has been through individually, we all have been through something that we didn't think we could survive, but we have, and we have overcome, and we broke through, and we are kicking down doors, and we also are helping other
Amen.
people to heal. We're also helping other people by showing them that, listen, you do not have to stay down in that place. There is so much room to go up and up
Never give up.
and up.
Yes, ma'am.
Never give up.
Never
So,
give up. That's not an
yes.
option on the table.
No, it's not.
Yes.
No.
And I'm glad you said that. Through life, you may look at the next person and may not even think that they're going through something, but you never know what the next person's going
Mm-hmm.
through. And that's why I always tell people to stay encouraged, and whatever it is that
Mm-hmm.
you may be going through, keep your head up and never give up. Because in what you're going through is only seasonal and temporary, and you will get to the other side. So I'm glad that you're here to share your testimony. I'm excited to be here to share my testimony and allow other people to share
Mm-hmm.
their stories, because we are not alone, regardless of what it is you're
Mm-mm.
going through. You're not alone. So I know that you have been through a lot. Like a lot of other people, you have been through a lot, but what you went through, you did not allow that to stop you. So can you tell the audience a little bit more about you, who you are?
Okay, so a little bit about me. Actually, I've been through some things in my life that I would say have turned the course of my life. I'm going to go back a few years, more than 10 actually. I'm back in 2004. I actually was in school for communications, to be communication broadcasting, to be on the radio. That was what I was actually in school for. And I got pregnant. And when you go for your, well, those of us who may not know, you go for your 5-month anatomy scan to find out, how the baby's developing, if everything is growing properly, if all the organs are where they're supposed to be. And I found out that my child was not growing at the rate she should have. I was 19 weeks at the time, but she was only measuring about 14, 15 weeks. So she was underdeveloping. And also, she had something called spina bifida, where the base of the nerves at the base of the neck don't form, and which makes them paralyzed and sometimes have brain defects. And also, she also has something called diaphragmatic hernia, where the diaphragm doesn't form. So her intestines were growing inside of her chest, and her heart and her stomach were going on the right side instead of the left side. So at the age of 20, first pregnancy, and I went to this normal routine scan on my own. So I found out all this news alone. Um, and it was devastating. You don't really know how to take this in at the time because all these things, I've never heard of any of these things that were the doctor was telling me. But I'm grateful for my doctor at the time, Dr. Camille Walker. She's amazing. She actually encouraged me to go get a second opinion because that is what you should do anytime you hear any news medically. And I went to a fertility specialist, myself and my kids. We now have two children now. We had to go to a genetic counselor. I had to get an amniocentesis done where they stick this like 20-inch needle inside of your abdomen and pull fluid from your gestational sac to test the fluid to see if there were some chromosomal defects, whereas myself and the father, like we were related or anything like that. They had to check our DNA. Everything came back normal, and the doctors told me it actually was something that just happened. They have no reason why. They cannot figure it out. I went through testing for about 3 weeks. I even went as far as thinking about going to get this surgery done in New York, where they take the fetus out of your stomach while you're still pregnant and try and attempt to fix the
Wow.
diaphragmatic hernia, attempt to fix, but it's not a guarantee. And things didn't work out. She's no longer here. And how I handled that situation, what I realize now is I actually started researching certain things, and I looked into enrolling into ultrasound school because that's how I found out what was wrong with my baby. Enrolled
Yeah.
in ultrasound school. I finished out my semester at college, and that in 5 months later, I was in ultrasound school. And I literally learned so much. It helped me to heal because just for those few months, I couldn't even stand to be around people who had children. If you were pregnant, I felt some type of way. And I have friends that we were pregnant at the same time. So when my baby was, we would do it like a week apart. So yes, I went to support this person in the hospital and hold their baby, but cried.
Yes.
And I had to give this person their child back because now thinking about it, I didn't want to give them that energy because I'm happy for you, but I'm sad for myself. So, I started to drink a lot. That started to like I thought it was helping me suppress those issues. I was
Yes.
mad at God. Every night I cried in the shower. God, why would you do this to me? The first child I'm pregnant with, I'm excited to have this baby, and now I found all this out, and now the baby is no longer here.
Yes.
And then the doctor say it's an 88% chance that it's going to happen again. I know I
Wow.
said I didn't want any kids, so it's like you start to like I was evaluating a lot of things. Like I said, I didn't want any kids. So is this my punishment? Like that's how I was interpreting everything. And when in school, when we got to the section of OBGYN, when you're learning the anatomy, all the abnormalities of fetuses in the female reproductive system, I started to break down and cry in class. And my doctor, excuse me, my professor who was a doctor, he asked me, why was I getting so emotional every time? And I told the entire class, I hadn't told anyone
Yeah.
that happened. Nobody knew that had happened to me. And the doctor, my professor, he actually started to go more in detail and more in depth over every single thing that was in regards to a fetus's birth defects and different abnormalities. And he was trying to make me understand, and what he did, and that was my healing
Wow.
because I was able to finish school. I got pregnant with my son Marcus, who is a healthy 16-year-old young man. I finished school. I did my clinicals, and then I began to help other women who were pregnant, who were having miscarriages, who were finding out all this information. And because I went through this, I turned my pain into my purpose. You
Yes,
know,
you did. Yes, you
that's
did.
really what I did.
That's actually that's a powerful thing you just said, testimony that you just shared. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of women face infertility issues. I myself, faced
Mm-hmm.
something similar, but you lost a child.
Mm-hmm.
That is a being that was growing within you. And I don't know that a lot of people understand what it feels like to lose a child, because
Mm-hmm.
I too faced infertility issues, and I had multiple miscarriages. In fact, my
Mm-hmm.
son is a twin, and I didn't find out I was pregnant till my son was 4 months, and I found out I was miscarrying. So the twin passed at 4 months pregnant, when I was 4 months pregnant, and then my son, I went on bed rest to keep him in. So my son survived. He's a twin, but his twin
Oh
didn't make
my
it.
goodness.
So
Right.
yes, a lot of women have infertility issues, and a lot of women may think in that time of loss that they can't get through it, or
Mm-hmm.
they can't make another child, or they don't know
Mm-hmm.
where to go from there, and they may fall into depression. And you
Mm-hmm.
said something very powerful when you said you started drinking. I too started drinking. You know,
Mm.
when you're dealing with the loss of a child or a loved one of any sort, a lot of people tend to self medicate as
Yes.
opposed to get help in regards to mental health help. A lot of people gotta ask for help. And
Mm-hmm.
a big thing in the Black community is us not wanting to go seek counseling because we don't want to be judged by the pen or the person on the other side. Have you heard of
Hmm.
that?
I hear that all the time with my patients, especially all the time. And it's like, why? Why?
Yes,
Because you can this is how people self-sabotage themselves, okay?
yes,
You can go out somewhere socially and drink,
yes,
and you don't know this person sitting next to you, and you run your mouth and tell them your entire life story. So when
yes.
people say that to me, you're full of you know what, because you can tell this person, that person, and this person, but you telling the therapist is, you know what, I have to work at getting well, I have to work at
Amen.
healing.
Amen.
That's work. And because I'm verbalizing it to a professional,
Hmm.
it's like a reflection, it's like you looking in the mirror, because this person is going to sit there, they don't have a response, they don't have any judgment. They're just looking at you and allowing you to express yourself. They may ask you a question here and there where they see fit, but because you're waiting for somebody kind of like to tell you, because when you're talking to a coworker or a friend or someone you may not know, you're waiting for them to tell you something that you want to hear.
Right.
Therapist is not going
Right.
to tell you what you want to hear.
Exactly.
People are afraid to really put the work in and get the help that they need to get better. And people love to talk about it, but they really don't want to do it. They'll see
Exactly.
you getting better, putting the work in, and pass judgment on you for doing that and say, oh, she's stupid. She went to see a therapist. What's wrong with her? I would
Mhm.
never do that. And this is why you're still in the situation that you're in. This is why you still don't love yourself as well as you should. This is why your life is going the way it is.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
For the women out there who may be facing infertility, who may have
Hmm.
lost a child, who may be hearing their story in yours or mine, what advice can you share with them in this moment before we even move on? Because there's more, but what advice can you share for them
Okay.
at this
Yes.
moment?
um, to be honest, I always tell any woman, and especially my patients, because for 16 years I've had women who had fertility issues or didn't have fertility issues and thought that they did because of what
Yes.
the doctors have told them,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to say to you, you have to change your thought process. When something bad happens, you have to look at the good that comes out of it, because even though this happened or this may not be happening at this time, it's a reason
I definitely
why.
agree.
And a lot of women think that a lot of women and men think that if you have infertility issues that you have to go to these doctors and get what do you call it, hormone injections and all these different things. And to be perfectly honest, I need you guys to eat better. I need you guys to talk to yourself better. I need you to, the person that you want to have this child with, You have to have open communication. You also have to be honest, because a lot of times it's not really infertility issues. You know how many out of 100 patients I'll have, if it's 100 patients and you have 100 of these people that are trying to have a baby, or they're the doctors told them they couldn't get pregnant, um, or they may have one ovary, or they may have PCOS, or they have all these fibroids. All of these things physically that's going on in our body also can be relieved. They also can get better with eating well, being open and honest with yourself, and not just stopping at seeing one doctor. You have to also get second opinions, and you also have to believe that this can happen for you. When you lose a child, it definitely is like the worst thing in the world. And you blame yourself as a woman.
Yes,
It's
you do.
really not our fault. It's
It's not.
really not our fault. And take it from somebody who went to school. I went to school to figure this out, and I learned that it was not my fault. They will tell you that you can't get pregnant. Oh, your hormone levels are low. Oh, you only have one ovary. Oh, you don't get your menstrual cycle regularly, so you can. And trust when I tell you, any patient that I have told, okay, stop going to the doctor. Stop going to the doctor. Stop listening to these doctors telling you can't get pregnant on your own. Stop
Yeah.
looking at this calendar and saying, oh, I ovulate on at this time on this day. Stop doing that. Have fun and enjoy sex, because you're supposed to have fun at procreating. It's not a job. And when you do that, you put a stress on your body. People have separated due to this, because people obsess over having a child, and people obsess over when they lose a child, having that child, having another one. When people
Mhm,
have children already and they lose a child, they
mhm.
neglect the children they already have when they lose another. And you have to look at your blessing. You still have one right here. And even if you don't
Amen.
have one, it's still a chance that you can have another. And even if you go your whole life and don't have one, there is still somebody's child that loves you just like a mother or a father, because they don't have that, because they don't have
Amen.
it.
I love
So
it.
stay positive always. As hard as you think, oh, it's easy to say that I did it. My sister Chatiela has done it. You have to do it. You have to talk to yourself. It's not
Positively. Yes.
positively.
Yes.
Yes.
Build yourself back up. I'm glad you said that because I actually, I'm the author of the novel Eyes Wide Shut. Um, and in
Yes.
my book, I actually share a part of my story where
Mhm.
I too was facing infertility, like I just spoke about. And the doctors told me I couldn't bear a child, but I did bear a child. So, like you said, don't listen to the doctors. Have faith, and it wasn't your time in that moment. But it doesn't mean it's a hard no.
Mhm.
It's just not now. So I know in
Yes.
your story, you lost your child, and let's fast forward, and it's for the sake of time.
Mhm. Yes,
You
ma'am.
had life happen to you, and you couldn't press
Mhm.
pause on this thing called life, not even if you wanted to.
Mhm.
Can you share with the audience what happened to you
Yes, ma'am. So
in
September.
your story as well?
Yes, ma'am. So September 2019, myself and my fiance, we were in a car accident. Not just any kind of regular car accident. Actually, the other driver was driving on the wrong side of the street. He was driving towards us and he ran straight into us. So he T-boned us. I actually was the driver. My fiance was sleeping, and all the airbags came out. Had no idea what was going on until we woke up, and I found out that my eye was no longer there. Initially, at the hospital, they kept telling me they weren't sure about it. They didn't know. I did about two or three CAT scans, in and out of consciousness, of course. But I remember something very powerful in that moment when I knew I had nowhere else to go. I couldn't even turn down a street. There was no cross street for me to turn down. I couldn't even go out into the road because cars are coming up the correct way and he's driving on the wrong side of the street. And I asked God to cover us, and I grabbed my fiance's arm, literally, and then the car hit and we woke up. And all I kept saying is, I can't believe he drove straight into us. He ran a red light. He ran a stop. Like I was so angry.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't believe that this happened, And the firemen come get us out the car and everything, take me to the hospital. I'm like losing my mind. I need to get in contact with my children because it's 1 o'clock in the morning. We were just going to get us something to eat, just a regular night going to get us something to eat. The day was a great day, and literally in a blink of an eye, literally,
Yes.
because now, I find out that they do tell me that there is no eye there, that I was ejected on site. So both of my airbags ejected, so it knocked my eye out on site. So I don't know if you guys can see this scar here. So this little scar right here, it was like a flap. You couldn't see anything because my eye was split. My tear duct ripped open. So my eye at the hospital, and it still does it. It just waters uncontrollably. But my spirit was so positive. My mom walked in, a woman who I've only seen cry maybe once or twice in my life, and that was when my grandmother passed away. And she
Wow.
passed away about 8 years ago. So she walked in and she was crying. And I looked at my mother and I said, Mommy, please don't let those be tears of sadness. I'm here. I'm alive. And she literally, the tears like stopped like that. She didn't wipe up, like they dried up just like that. And I said, let these be tears of happiness. I'm like, Mom, look at me. And I made a joke out of it because honestly, I wasn't sad. I was hurt. I was in pain, but I wasn't sad. And I kept asking the nurses to let me go to the bathroom because they didn't want me to walk because I had a concussion. I had a bleed on my brain. All
Wow.
these things were going on. Yeah, it was a lot going on. I had this big thing covering my eye because at that time they still didn't know if the eye was there or not. And my nurse, she was really sweet. She goes, I'm gonna take you to the bathroom, but you can't tell anybody. So she takes me to the bathroom, and I wanted to go to the bathroom to see if I could walk. I wanted to stand up because they wouldn't let me stand up in the room or anything. They wanted me laying down, not moving because of the concussion and the bleed on the brain. And when I stood up off that stretcher and I walked into the stall, I just cried and cried. Even when I looked at myself for the first time in the mirror, it was like, oh my goodness. But I have this patch over my eye. So I don't, it's just a
Yeah.
patch there. I may have
Yeah.
an eye, I may not. It's still hope.
Right.
But I was thankful that I didn't have a broken spine, those little
Amen.
things. So now I'm making more light of the situation. And more people are coming in talking to me. And I'm like, listen, this okay. If I just have to have one eye, it's all good. I can walk, I can talk, I can breathe. It's so many other things that could have went wrong. So I'm kind of like, oh, it's just an eye, but it's really not. But that's how I was looking at it because I was really glad to be alive. Even,
Amen.
and they take me up. So I finally get to go to surgery that night, maybe like 15 hours later. And that was my reality check because the surgeon's assistant comes upstairs. He, was asking me certain questions, explaining to me the procedure. They actually had to clean the rest of my eye socket out because glass had went into my face. It still comes out now. Sometimes I have little specks of glass come out my eye or come out the skin right here. And I see the CAT scan on the screen. I'm an ultrasound technician, so I can read certain CAT scans. And I see the CAT scan of the head, and then I see the right eye, and then I see the left eye, but you see nothing there. So I look at it, I go, wait a minute. I go, so wait, I said, so the eye is really gone. He goes, yeah, what did they tell you? I said, they kept saying that it may still be there, that it may still be there. I said, please, can you show me that? I'm an ultrasound tech. I know how to read certain CAT scans. And he shows me the CAT scan. And that was the first time that whole day I was in the hospital that I cried. That was the first time that I cried. And I cried, and I sat up and I was like, okay, God, y'all, let's do this. And the nurses came over to me and they asked, could they hug me? Because they had never seen anybody right before surgery do anything like this or even have this type of attitude. And it was hard coming home, not knowing how your kids are going to feel about it, and then around, I ain't like, Mom, we're happy you alive too. We're okay. They would make jokes about it, to try to make me feel better. But they didn't know about the nights when I wasn't sleeping, or every time I closed my eyes, I would see the car coming at me, and I see these lights, and I would feel the impact of this car hitting me over and over and over again. When
Wow.
you are awake for 3 days, when
Mhm,
you awake for 3 days,
mhm.
and it takes everything in you not to close your eyes because you are afraid of what you're going to see or what you're going to feel. So you start to really ask God for help. You really start to do other things to help yourself. Your prayers become different. You know, um, the way you talk to yourself becomes different. The way I started to talk to myself became different because at certain points I hated the way I looked because I had all these scars. They were, more prominent at the time. I had all these scars, and then the temporary prosthetic eye they gave me was one of those prosthetics that from the stuffed animals back in the day, and those little funny looking eyes. It was one of those eyes, and I looked crazy, even though I knew I was beautiful. But those scars, being angry that this happened to us, along with not working, along with not having income for 6 weeks because disability is just, they don't really, they're not, it doesn't rush to get money. So you have no way of figuring out how your family is going to survive. And you have two people who are going through this because we both had, it was major injuries on his part. But for me, mine were up here and his were below. You know what I mean? So you have these two
Wow.
people who can't do anything, but we're leaning on one another.
Yeah.
We're praying with each other. I'm looking at myself in the mirror, telling myself that as bad as I feel right now, I'm not going to let this situation define who I am. I'm not
Amen.
going to allow this to break me because it could have broke me.
Yes.
It could have broke me. The anxiety, the not wanting to be around people, because now I'm blind on my left side. So I have to be extremely cautious when I'm walking, who's around me, all these different things, certain noises, the traumas, the triggers, any little thing, my depth perception is off. So things look closer than they seem. You have somebody who had 20/20 vision her whole life who now has to struggle with this on top of the fear of certain things. When I walk across the street and if a car stops too quick, now I'm stopping and I'm afraid and now I'm stuck. Not being able to open my eyes in a car,
Yes.
for certain times, not even want to get into a car, but you have to because how else are you going to get around and handle your business? Talking yourself through literally
Maiza,
everything.
I want to
Yes.
first say that I want to tell you that first, you don't look like what you've been through at all. And
Oh,
if you
thank
wouldn't have
you.
pointed out that
Mm-hmm.
you lost your eye, I wouldn't have been able to tell it. And for you to point
Mm.
out a scar where you can barely see it, girl, you look good. You look
Thank
real good.
you.
Okay. And I
Thank
can
you.
only imagine with you being in a traumatic event, you and your significant other, like you said, y'all was going, the day was fine, and out of nowhere, a drunk driver
Mm-hmm.
came to you and hit you all at impact. There was nothing you can do. You said you tried, there
Mm-hmm.
was nowhere you can go. For you to
Mm-hmm.
experience that and to walk away from that and to look as good as you do and to have overcame that in itself, meaning God is not done with you, and you have a bigger path ahead of you than you know. You are a beautiful person inside and out, with or without an eye. I wouldn't even be able to tell looking at you that you were missing
Mm-hmm.
an eye. But I want to tell you that with you losing an eye, with you having a brain bleed, with you having a concussion and all of that, look at you now. You overcame that.
Yeah.
You overcame that by far. And actually, you came out on top of that because you have a story to share with the world now. And I'm definitely looking forward to a book for you
Mm-hmm.
sooner than later. Sooner than later.
Yes.
And I
Yes,
hope you're
ma'am.
working on
Yes,
it.
ma'am.
I hope you're working on it.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
because you truly have a story. But for you to go through all of that, I can only imagine that you have anxiety, possibly
Mhm.
depression, maybe sometimes, and also
Mhm.
PTSD.
Mhm.
Because a lot of people, and that's another thing that I speak about, is PTSD. For those who doesn't know, don't know what it is, post-traumatic stress disorder is something that happened to you traumatically, whether you were in a car accident like Maisa, if you were in a domestic violence relationship, if you lost a child like Maisa,
Mhm.
if you anything in your life that happened to you dramatically or in a traumatic facet and you had no control of it and it changed your life, you may have
Mhm.
it. A lot of people refer to PTSD thinking it's only a military thing because a lot of
Mhm.
in the military, 22 soldiers a day commit suicide due to PTSD. But PTSD is an invisible wound, and it's not only predicated towards the military. It is something that is that can happen to anybody. It's like I said, if
Right.
something happened to you, like if something traumatic happened to you, if you even lost a loved one, if you've been in a car accident, if you've been raped, if you've been in a
Mhm.
domestic violence situation, if you something traumatic happened to you, something
Yes.
happened to you, and you can't sleep sometimes, and you think about it, or you get chills thinking about it, or you go there and you become a different person. If you're still stuck there in that moment, you need to seek assistance and help because
Mhm.
PTSD is real, mental health is real, depression is real, anxiety is real, and I am
Mhm.
definitely a true testament in knowing that it is. And I'm an
Yes.
advocate for PTSD, for depression, for anxiety, because people don't really know what it is. And like
Mhm.
I said, it's invisible. It's an invisible wound, and a lot it goes undiagnosed and underdiagnosed until it's too late. And I know with the
Mhm.
pandemic that plays into a part of the epidemic of suicide as well.
Mhm.
Check on your loved ones. Check on your loved ones as well, because you never know what your neighbor or what the next person may be going through. Because the times that we are living in, the with the pandemic and everything else happening in life, and you can't
Mhm.
press pause, it's
Mhm.
playing a big role on our mental health. So we do need to check on one another. And I just wanted to put that out there. I'm definitely
Mhm.
excited that you are here with me today and sharing your story with us because, like I said, you have been through a lot and you have turned
Mhm.
your lemon into lemonade. You've lost a child, you still survived. You've been in a traumatic accident, you and your significant other, you still survived. You have
Mhm.
children now that are healthy, and so you didn't get stuck by thinking you couldn't have kids because you knew God was by your side. And you said you didn't get negative while you was in the hospital when your mom came to the bedside with you, and now you know God was by your side. He wanted you to know that what you were going through there in that moment was only temporary, and it was
Yes.
seasonal. And you're going to now use that as your testimony to share with the world.
Mhm.
You're going to be able to use that to be able to put the pen to paper and write your first memoir to share
Mhm.
with the world, because there are a lot of women like yourself, like myself,
Yes.
and like a lot of other people that may have been going through something, may have gone through something. They need to share their story with others in hopes of inspiring and liberating others to let them know that they are not alone and they too can get through it as well. So you are, my friend, you are a person that has a huge story. I mean, a huge story. You could have gave up back then, but did you? No, because that wasn't
No.
an option. It wasn't an option, right?
No, it was. It really wasn't.
I'm quite sure
It
you thought
wasn't.
about it a
Even
lot.
I thought about it a lot, and I honestly have to say, God, first and foremost, God is amazing,
Amen.
because
He is.
what I started to learn even prior to the accident, because a year before that I started my spiritual journey, my weight loss journey, and everything. And what I started to realize is if you really truly ask God for what you need, what
Amen.
you want, and
Amen.
you put in the work, He sees you putting the work, and you're not just asking, you're also seeking guidance. You're not just asking him for these things, you're seeking guidance, and you are doing the work physically that needs to be done. He's
Putting the work.
literally going to answer those prayers. I'm telling y'all, he's going to answer those prayers because, oh my God, please, I want to sleep tonight. I just want to sleep for 5 hours. Lord, I just want to sleep for 5 hours. I don't want to see myself getting hit by this car. I just want to sleep and I want to rest well. And That was my prayer so many nights, because for some time I probably only get 1 or 2 hours of sleep. 1 or 2 hours of sleep out of 24 hours. That's how much sleep I was getting. And the headaches, the
Yes.
constant
Yes.
headaches, felt like somebody was had on some Tims and was stomping me in my head. And that would go on
Wow.
for 4 or 5 hours. That wasn't nothing that was for a few minutes.
Right. Right.
No, that was for hours and
Right.
hours and hours. And it's
Y-
nothing you can do about it.
Nothing.
It's
And
nothing you can do about it.
you not only went through the mental pain, but you was also going through the physical torment as well. You was going through it mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. You was trying to
Hmm.
find yourself. You woke up,
Hmm.
you had two eyes, and out of
Yeah.
nowhere you ended up with one because of a drunk driver. Let me ask you,
Hmm.
what happened to the drunk driver?
To be honest, so the police never did a breathalyzer on this person. And it's a lot, because they still are, everything is still going on, but of course that's on a police report. When I first got the police report, and we couldn't believe it, we could not believe it. And there was a second person in the car. So you
Wow.
telling me that it's two of y'all in this car, and you're driving on the opposite side of the road, and you're driving into somebody, and this person is blowing their horn, flashing their lights, doing this. So you had to be asleep at the wheel. There was no way that you would. Both of y'all had to be asleep in that car. There's no way that they were awake.
Wow.
There's no way on this busy street, because it was on a busy street. It's not just
Right.
a regular. No, it was on a main road, a main road.
Wow.
So yeah, it's oh,
And
yeah.
you said that there was many a nights that you prayed that you could just get sleep. And a lot of people, and a lot of us don't realize it, when you have anxiety, when you have depression,
Hmm.
when you have PTSD, it is hard to sleep. There you can go days without sleeping, you can go
Yeah.
days without eating, you want to be to
Yes.
yourself, you withdraw, you don't want to be around people at all. You can lose interest in things that you may have a
Hmm.
passion for. You just start withdrawing. So I understand and I hear you loud and
Hmm.
clearly when you
Hmm.
said that you were going through this, and for you to be able to get to the other side, that's powerful. You never know what people lay in bed at night and think about. You never know what people may be going
Yeah,
through. You may never know how close to the edge that they
they
are.
are. Yes.
Don't push them. Don't push them. So when I
Mm.
say don't push them, I need you all to be a listening ear to your neighbor. I need you to check in on your
Mm-hmm.
strong friends and family, because I'm telling you, people are going through it alone. They're suffering in silence, and it's leading people to their demise because suicide is at a
Mm-hmm.
whole all-time high. Suicide is real. Mental
Mm-hmm.
illness and mental disorder is real, and I need you all to understand that it is an invisible wound. Just because you don't see them physically going through something, what they're going through mentally, it's a mental warfare going on right now. It's a mental thing that a lot of us are facing
Mm-hmm.
and suffering in silence, and I need you all to check on your loved ones. Check on your loved ones because you never know what it is that they're going through. And like she said, she prayed for sleep. It's many nights I pray for sleep myself. It's many of the weeks that I don't sleep because I am tunnel vision focused on what I'm going through. And when you're battling depression or when you're battling anxiety, you just pray that you get to the next hour, the next minute, never
Yes.
mind the next day. So you just never know how close someone is to the
Mm-hmm.
ledge. Don't push them. Be there. Be a listening ear. And I want to share in my novel, Eyes Wide Shut, I do provide resources to those who may
Mm-hmm.
be battling and don't know how or where to go. Okay, so I want to let anyone know here on the platform, if you're listening and you're going through something, if you know of someone that's thinking about suicide or have suicidal thoughts, don't take it as a game. Don't think they're crying out for
Mm-hmm.
help, even if they are. That's not your job to judge that or to determine that. I want you to find help, and you can call the suicide hotline at 1-800-784-2787. 2433. Again, if for the National Suicide Hotline, they have trained professionals there. They can help you, and the phone number is 1-800-784-2433. Another thing for domestic violence, if you're going through a domestic violence situation and you're staying, it doesn't matter why you're staying. And I know a lot of you ladies stay because you think that you, especially if you have children, you want to stay because you don't want the child to grow up without the father or the child to grow up without the mother. When I want to let you and hear me clear, you are doing more damage to the child than anything, because what you're doing is you're setting a precedent, you're setting the stage for them to tolerate that for when they get older, and you're allowing them to know that that's okay. It's not okay. So what we want to do is change generational curses and be able to find a safe place to find a way to find exit that situation, because you never know, it may lead you to your demise, it may lead your children to
Mm-hmm.
their demise. So don't think of reasons to stay. Find a plan and exit before it's too late. So if
Mm-hmm.
you are suffering from domestic violence and you need to help, find help or seek help, what I recommend is you go to the hotline. It's called the hotline.org. The hotline.org, they can help you with different resources if you're in a domestic violence situation. And also, if you are suffering in silence, like a lot of us are, we want
Mm-hmm.
you to find someone that you can confide in, because you're not alone and you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
suffer alone. You're not alone. And a lot of people, we go through it. We go through it alone. And a lot of us are not strong enough to get through it. And we think that this is the end. We think that it can get no better. We think we have all these negative thoughts, but we have to get out of our way, get out of our head, and find a way to overcome that. So just never think. I want you to keep yourself around people, and keep yourself around positive people that can pour into you positively. And I want you to change. If you're listening to music, change, make sure you listen to the right music, music that can pour
Mm.
you, music that can lift your vibration. Because in this moment,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to know, if you don't have someone to speak to, okay, if you don't have anyone to to speak to, because a lot of people don't. I'm one person. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I choose not to have people to speak to, right? Because if you're like me, you don't have people to speak to, get you a journal, okay? And you can get my journal
Yes.
on Amazon. It's called the
Mm-hmm.
Manifestation Journal, okay, for women. You can get you a journal, or you can get my coloring book. It's called Life
Mm-hmm.
Lesson Coloring Book. It's on Amazon as well. Get you some type of outlet. Write it down. If in whatever you're feeling, journal it, okay? Or
Mm-hmm.
stay busy. Get out of your
Mm-hmm.
head, because it's no good to stay there. It's no, it won't lead
Mm-hmm.
you any
Not at all.
good. It won't. So again, I didn't want to my Issa. I just wanted to
No,
drop a
no, it's
few nuggets here and there. But
no,
yeah,
no, no, it's okay. Those were some great gems. I actually want to double back on something you said about the journaling. So yes, definitely get those journals from sister. And another way to journal is something that I used to do, which I realized I was doing like a video journal, was I would actually press record on my phone, like those nights when I couldn't sleep, or any time in the day where I was having a line of anxiety, or I was just not feeling right, not feeling
yes,
beautiful, not just my spirit wasn't up. I would go in the bathroom, lock the door, turn the light on, and hit record on my phone. And I would say how I was feeling in that moment. I would cry. It would be that ugly cry. I would let it out. And I didn't realize I was actually healing, I was
yes,
just doing this. This is what my body, my spirit led me to
yes.
do. So I would say what I was, how I was feeling in that moment. I would cry, do what I needed to do. Then the next thing I would do is I would talk about, okay, so now I got that out. Now I'm no longer going to do X, Y, and Z. So when I start to feel this way, I'm going to do this. I would say that. And then after I would say that, I
Sorry about
would
that.
say whatever little, it's okay, honey. It's I would say any little affirmations or any type of quotes or anything that will uplift my spirit at the end. And then I would look at myself at my phone and I would always smile at the end. And sometimes I would look back at it, sometimes I wouldn't. Sometimes I wouldn't look at it for months down the line, like, oh wow, I used to feel that way. And what I noticed is that at a certain point I stopped doing it.
Mm,
Because I'm like, wait a minute. I was thinking about it one day. It had to be about like 9 months after the accident. And I'm like, wait, when was the last time I did it? And I looked, and that had been months. But I started
Yes.
doing different things. I was doing
Yes.
different things. So it's like God was really showing me what was needed at that time.
Amen.
you know, I was doing that. Then I was doing shower meditation where I would get in the shower and I would cry, and it would be the same thing, that ugly cry, but I would let the water hit me and release it. And then after that, I would do the same thing. I was lifting my spirit right back up. I was releasing and taking in that good energy. And a year or two later, somebody said, no, a year later, somebody said that, that shower meditation, you were doing this, the looking in the mirror at myself and speaking, life into myself and stating how I felt. They're like, that's something called mirror imaging. It was all these different things that I had no idea were really real things. I was just doing what my
Yes.
spirit told me to do. And now, even saying it to you guys right now, I realized that the things that I was asking God to do for me, He was doing. He was doing. He was helping me and showing me how to heal.
Yes.
Even when I was having triggers, I would have these triggers. I was having anxiety attacks while scanning my patients.
Wow. Wow.
The throbbing feeling, the head pain, the head turning
Yes.
out, that still was happening after I went back to work for like a year and a half. And I would have the anxiety attack, and then it would come. So now I'm like stiff. In my head, I'm praying, I'm saying my affirmations, I'm saying these quotes that I have like memorized, trying to save face while I'm scanning my patient. Literally. And I was doing that every day I went to work. Doing that
Suffering in
while I'm
silence.
outside, suffering in silence while I'm outside walking across the streets. And if somebody blew their horn, it's like, and now I'm stuck and I'm standing there. This literally happened on South Orange Avenue in Newark.
Wow.
I was stuck in the middle of the street and could not move, and I was alone. I was
Wow.
alone, and I finally got across the street and stood on the sidewalk and cried and cried and cried, and I didn't care who was looking at me,
Exactly.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to cry it out, and I prayed and I got it together. And I would have to say these affirmations in my head, these mantras. I would pray. I would have certain type of music on. Sometimes I would have on my inspirational books on Audible. I will be listening to that. From the moment I stepped out my door, I'm praying, I'm saying this to the moment I came back in the house. Like that was what I did, because it was like me trying to protect myself because I'm out there alone. You know,
Right.
um,
Right.
Scanning a patient, and a song comes on, and all of a sudden you have an anxiety attack and you have no idea why with this particular song.
Mm-hmm.
And after the pay is over, is another song plays, and the same thing. Now this other song brings you to your knees, and you have no idea why. And I'm like,
Yes.
and this happened for a week, because at work we had CDs in rotation that played every day,
Wow.
and these three songs on this one CD. And then I'm praying this one particular day, a week later, and I'm asking, like, I don't why is this happening? What are you trying to show me? Please tell me what you're trying to show me. And literally, like a few minutes later, it clicked. That was a song, that album, which was the John Legend album. I can't remember the name of the album, but it was an album with this Rick Ross song on it. That album I was listening to that whole day, after I got off work at 12 when I was doing Uber. I was listening to that album. So it was trigger. It was a trigger for
Yeah.
me. So
Yeah.
what I did, I started looking for a therapist. I'm like, okay, now I need some help, because anything I'm just not helping me, and I have
Mm-hmm.
to beat this. So I found this. I found a few therapists, talked to a few different people, found this one young lady, really connected with her. We had our initial, you do your initial
Consultation.
consultation, and then she agreed to take me on as a client, and we had our first hour. It was like an hour and a half, and certain questions she was asking me, and I was telling her what I was, I'm answering them, and she's looking at me because it's done. We did it by video,
Mm-hmm.
and she's looking at me, and she's like, so yes, you have PTSD. Yes, you were suffering and still are suffering from depression. But it went like me. You telling me your timeline. It has gotten much better. Yes, you definitely suffer from anxiety. You definitely should see a psychiatrist because they could prescribe you Xanax for anxiety. Blah 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 blah. But then she goes, but you have been doing the work because from what you have been through, she was like, honey, I mean, and I'm sitting there like, are you serious right now? And she
Yeah.
goes, I can't help you because she can't write me out this prescription.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually told her this one thing I did, maybe so that happened. The triggers were happening. A week later, I was finding them. So maybe like 3 weeks later, I come home from work this Friday night. I was like, you know what? I got to get this off of me. I went on YouTube, found the CD. I got in the shower and I played and I stayed in the shower while like those 3 songs that were triggering me. I allowed myself to break down, and I can hear those songs now and they
Wow.
do nothing to me. Nothing. So I had to face my fear.
Wow.
And
Yes.
I faced my fear and I told her I did that and she's like pretty much like, you don't need me. Like what you need me for? Because she's like, you journal. She's like all these things that she's asking me, like I'm doing everything.
Yes, you did the work. You're doing the work.
I'm
You've
doing them,
done the
yeah.
work. You're still doing the work.
I'm still doing the
You,
work.
my friend, are a trailblazing woman. You just sat here and told us your loss, what you've lost, what you overcome, your accident, your tragedy, how you turned it into triumph. You are a woman of God. And I will say that he has his hands on you and he was not done
Yes.
with you and he will not be done with you for a
Mm-hmm.
while because you
Mm-hmm.
have a lot to give and share with the world. I'm so excited that you took
Thank
out time
you.
to be with us today. We have to have you back because we have to talk more about these triggers. We have to talk about mental health,
Yes.
mental illness. We have to bring awareness to this and continue to shine light on things that people often don't like to talk about. But I want to tell you to keep going and continue to have your faith and walk in light because you are well on your way. I'm very excited to have you back anytime. And I want to have you back and hear more about what else you're working on because I know you're up to something.
Yes, I'm excited. Yes, I will. Anytime you want me, you got me, sister. You
Aw. Well,
I appreciate you.
I'm glad that you came with us today and blessed us with your presence and blessed the audience with your presence. And this is Life Lessons Radio. We will be back. So until further ado, we want to tell you to stay safe, be well, and thank you, Maisa, for being on
Thank
the show.
you.
And you are welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
Lessons Radio. To be a guest on our show, send us an email at chatielaunderwood.com. Please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, folks, be safe and stay well.